Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is Dr. Mubashira, and today I have decided that I will teach you people regarding typhoid fever. In today's video, I will talk about the background of typhoid fever, its clinical course, signs and symptoms, investigations, treatment, and the most hot topic, that is MDR typhoid and XDR typhoid, and the vaccination available. So let's start. Typhoid fever is basically known as enteric fever as well. It is a life-threatening illness which is caused by bacteria Salmonella typhi and Salmonella paratyphi A, B, and C strain. And most of the time, this typhoid fever or enteric fever is prevalent in those areas which have poor sanitation or overcrowding. Now let's talk about the transmission of typhoid fever. Basically, it has orofecal transmission, and it is transmitted by intake of contaminated food and water due to acutely infected patient or chronic asymptomatic carrier, and hence leads to multi-system illness. What happens in case of typhoid fever, that the bacteria enters the bloodstream and then travel to the small intestine, and the white blood cells carry them to the liver, spleen, and bone marrow, where it reproduces and re-enters the bloodstream, and then it invades the biliary system, gallbladder, and lymphatic tissues of the bowel. Salmonella typhi is basically a small gram-negative bacilli or rod. And this salmonella was named after Daniel Salmon, who was an American veterinarian. And he worked in American industry and agriculture department, and he discovered this bacteria, that is Salmonella entericum. And there was a lady whose name was Mary, and later on she became famous as Typhoid Mary. Basically, she was a cook and she infected more than 50 people at that time, and she continued to infect many people. She was later on named as Walking Typhoid Fever Factory because it was found that she was a carrier of typhoid and she contaminated all those for whom she was cooking. Basically, this enteric fever can present as acute bacterial infection, and during the acute infection, the patient sheds very high concentration of bacteria. And after the acute infection, almost 3 to 5% of patients become carriers of typhoid, and they have this bacteria in their gallbladder and they continue to secrete it throughout their life. In Punjab, it was investigated that almost more than 90% of patients who were positive for typhoid fever were found to be drug resistant, either MDR or XDR. And this diagnosis of typhoid is mostly made by the quacks in the periphery of Punjab, especially where, for example, whenever the patient comes with fever, they diagnose it as typhoid fever without looking any sign and symptoms or without any evidence of investigations. And even they label the patient as double typhoid. And in this video, I want to tell all of the people who are listening to this video that there is no terminology like double typhoid. And a professional healthcare, a professional doctor will never label the patient as double typhoid. Although there is relapse of typhoid, but there is no terminology like double typhoid. Now let's talk about the clinical course of typhoid fever. During the first week, the patient suffers from fever with rigors and chills. And the pattern of fever is step ladder pattern. That is, it increases gradually. First it is low and then it increases, even it becomes high grade up to 103 or 104 degree Fahrenheit. And it is associated with fatigue, lethargy, as well as there can be diarrhea or there can be constipation. And in case if there is diarrhea, it is pea soup diarrhea. In the second week, the patient develops abdominal pain and these rose spots, the skin rash, which is mostly present on the trunk of the patient. And these are pink papule of 2 to 3 millimeter in diameter. In the third week, the patient can develop intestinal perforation, intestinal hemorrhage, and hepatosplenomegaly. This is the picture which shows rose spots. These are 2 to 3 millimeter in diameter, and they are mostly prominent on the trunk. Now let's talk about the signs in case of typhoid fever. Most of the cases there is relative bradycardia. That is, instead of tachycardia, the patient develops bradycardia. Because normally, in any kind of infection, there is tachycardia. That is, the pulse will increase. But here in typhoid fever, there is relative bradycardia. There is diachrotic pulse, that is double beat. And soft splenomegaly can be there, and patient's tongue is white coated because of dehydration. Now let's talk about the complications. If the illness prolongs more than 2 weeks, then the patient can develop intestinal perforation, intestinal hemorrhage, shock, dark or fresh blood in the stools, and typhoid encephalopathy, which is basically altered state of consciousness, delirium, and confusion. Now coming towards the topic of investigations, that how we can investigate typhoid fever. The gold standard investigation is blood culture and sensitivity. This blood culture is basically the microorganism is isolated in the blood culture and it is 100% specific. Then there is complete blood count. It may show anemia, leukopenia, thrombocytopenia, and there can be slightly elevated ESR. Serum electrolytes can show hyponatremia or hypokalemia. And the culture of typhoid can be taken from many body fluids, for example, bone marrow, urine, stool, duodenal aspirate, and even rose spot biopsy extracts. But the blood culture is the gold standard investigation for diagnosis of typhoid fever, and it must be sent before starting empirical antibiotics. And the blood culture is usually taken in the form of 20 ml blood, and it is inoculated in two types of bottles. This blood culture is positive in 40 to 80% of cases, and it usually comes out positive early in the course of disease. And it must be sent even if the patient is currently afebrile or even if the patient has already took antibiotics. And the report will come after 5 to 7 days. Previously, serological tests were done for typhoid fever in the form of typhidor test and Vidal test, but both have decreased sensitivity as well as decreased specificity, and they are obsolete now. Now coming towards the very important part of our video today, that is classification of typhoid fever according to drug resistance. So there are two types: multi-drug resistant typhoid fever and extensively drug resistant typhoid fever. Basically what happens that, for example, if a patient has suffered from non-resistant typhoid fever, that he or she is not resistant to any kind of antibiotic, then we have the treatment options available in the form of first line antimicrobial therapy, that is chloramphenicol, ampicillin, and trimethoprim sulfamethoxazole. And the second line antimicrobial agents include fluoroquinolones, that is ciprofloxacin. And there are third generation cephalosporins, that, for example, if the patient has uncomplicated typhoid fever, then we have the option of cefixime. And if it is complicated typhoid fever, then we have the option of ceftriaxone. However, this MDR typhoid fever or multi-drug resistant typhoid fever, it is resistant to first line antimicrobial therapy, that is chloramphenicol, ampicillin, and trimethoprim sulfamethoxazole. And the XDR typhoid fever, that is extensively drug resistant typhoid fever, it is resistant to all recommended antibiotics for typhoid fever. That is first line antimicrobials as well as second line antimicrobials and third generation cephalosporins. And this XDR typhoid fever was basically documented in Pakistan in 2016. So the treatment option for typhoid fever, that is XDR typhoid, is azithromycin. If the patient has weight of less than 60 kg, then we give the loading dose of 1 gram per oral, followed by 500 milligram once daily for 7 to 10 days. However, if the weight is more than 60 kg, then we give 1 gram per oral for 7 to 10 days. This is the treatment of XDR typhoid. And if the patient of XDR typhoid is hemodynamically unstable, then we will admit him in the tertiary care hospital, and we have the options of carbapenem antibiotics, that is imipenem, meropenem, or ertapenem. And even we can give corticosteroids in the form of dexamethasone if it is a case of severe XDR typhoid. And tigecycline has also been documented. Basically, the treatment of typhoid fever is divided into three categories. It is supportive, empirical, and definitive. Supportive treatment basically includes antipyretics, adequate hydration, adequate nutrition, and correction of fluid and electrolyte balance. And the empirical treatment, it is basically started as a form of empirical antibiotics. However, it should be started after sending blood culture and sensitivity to prevent any complications and development of carrier, and the definitive treatment is according to the culture and sensitivity. However, the physicians should avoid the use of azithromycin as an empirical choice of treatment. It is prescribed only in case of XDR typhoid. And the surgery is basically indicated if there is intestinal perforation. And we have two options for surgery. Either there is simple closure of the perforation or small bowel resection. Now coming towards the vaccination for typhoid fever. Basically, the vaccines are available in the form of typhoid conjugated vaccine, and it is basically given after 2 years of age. And especially in the endemic areas, mass immunization and typhoid vaccine is given at regular intervals in order to reduce the incidence of infection. And before travel to endemic areas, a person should be immunized. And this vaccination basically gives a cover of 2 to 3 years. And the prevention of typhoid fever is basically by taking the hygienic measures and regular hand washing. And the follow up, once a patient develops typhoid fever, he should be monitored for relapse as well as for the complications. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe to my channel. Stay blessed. Allah Hafiz.